Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, good night. Welcome back to this podcast, Talking Series. I am a Papianteu. I'm a spiritual guide, a writer, and I'm here just to answer questions, open questions, to be discussing subjects on the Mayan calendar. So, hello, Paul. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's a beautiful day here in Kyoto. How about you? How's Mexico?
Mexico City is so silent in this moment. This is the night in here. We're under the shadows now. But what is peculiar is the situation in the city and stuff like that. And by the way, let me tell you, because I have been questioned several times or different times about this. No, this is not the Mayan prophecy. All this stuff about pandemia, deaths, and stuff is not something that anybody has ever prophesied, or there's no writing. Once again, one of the purposes of my work and what I do, the work that I do also for the UMK, the Maya University of Manufacturing, is to present the knowledge beyond, far away from New Age or far away from superstition and stuff like that. We do want to tell science and spiritual philosophy, spirituality, but no, there hasn't been any prophecy. There's no prophet. There's nothing that tells us that we were going to be locked or that the world was going to be in the middle of this or in between.
Okay. Finish what you're saying. I have a good question, but please continue. Sorry. Go ahead.
No. Well, you can stop me in any moment that you want, because
okay.
What we're now preparing for, in reality, is for what is called the year bearer, that in Mayan we call it the imam, that's to say the elder, the grandfather, or what can be called just the year or the Nahual that is going to be reigning over this next year. That's what we actually are beginning to prepare in. And me, in my case, also to be open for same way as I have been asking about prophecies, I have been asking about classes and consultations. But your question, and now and later I can elaborate. There hasn't been prophecy. There hasn't been any stuff like that.
Well, this is actually an interesting conversation that my friend was asking me about it, and I gave him the best answer I could. But now I have a chance to ask you directly, and so there is, of course, the famous Mayan prophecies. Everybody knows about these. It became famous about 10 years ago, or maybe more than that. We've done some research into it, or I've looked into it, and there's the cartoon prophecies, and there is some. For example, there's the whole cartoon system, and there are some prophecies about that. And so, can you offer an explanation about what they are, what they aren't, what they mean, et cetera, et cetera? Like, can you talk about that a little bit, about what are some of these prophecies?
Well, yes. Well, yes, it happens. What happened was that the year beater, or the man, as I said, that entered last year was the return of knowledge, or the return of an idea, making once again a decision. Also getting obsessed by change, or getting obsessed by movement, and let's say, revolution. And everybody was surprised that in the Chumayel, Chilambalam, there's some references of this cartoon and some stuff about things that seems to adjust to what we experience. But let's see. That was last year on precisely 19th of February, or it when we began to listen to this stuff, and we began also to to discuss the way, as I said, of the Mayan calendar. We began to talk about uh, what this next year were going to be. And last year, the mom, in the traditional Kiche way of receiving the elder or the new year, was on February 20. By that days, by those days, or in those days or those times, the COVID was beginning to be spread also as news, also as the actual fact of infecting people, and obviously carrying along everything that is related with that, like like fake news and stuff and conspiracy stuff. So in the beginning, it was confused. Like the mom has everybody is beginning to experience who know what. Well, now after a close reading, 1 year later, and not what was going on in the beginning of the entry of last month, we can see it that in reality it does not adjust as such. The other day I made what Carl Sagan was doing with the actual with astrology and stuff like that, and I was moving myself from the previous cartoon to enter into some other cycle. And well, sometimes here and there were also coincidences. So because there's something in the Chuyamelchi Lambalams and in some all the others books, the Chilambalam books, that they're kind of dark and they are pessimist. They were written in the middle of the invasion and after the conquest and stuff like that. So they hold some sort of a dark mood about this stuff, and you can see it. So yes, there's something that adjusts. I will not say that it's a full, complete prophecy. Some things adjust, but as in other ways, and in other cases or in other pages, not belonging to this category that can adjust in a sense. So I will go back to say the same. There's no prophecy, there's no nothing. If you will want to see that in the Chilambalams, well, maybe you can get some references, but they don't look that definitive. What is important and what really was, let's say, remarkable to see was that this year, well, the previous year, 2020, was closed related to what 1968, which hold the same mom, the same year beater, was saved for 8 no. They were times of change in the world. They were times they proved to be what is always said about the Mayan calendar. The Mayan calendar is not talking about cycles in the sense of things that are going to repeat in the same, but on the let's say framework. They established the Mayan calendar established like a framework, or like they established like the atmosphere in which things tend to be the same but not equal, or the atmosphere in which things are going to happen are going to be the same but not in the repeating cycles, but seeing the same actions and move. And that's what it happens. 1968 make revolutions and change in the world. Well, this 2020 really did change things in the world. So that's what we saw.
No, that's
we didn't read
okay.
Our yeah.
That's a very interesting idea. So basically, you're saying that there is a reoccurring atmosphere with the mom that is returning, and there's a sort of in that sense there's a prophecy of atmospheres, let's say, which goes according to the Mom, which is a 52 years cycle.
Yeah.
And so,
well, we always take that into account. In a sense, or in some other sense, we also analyze independently, not every Aqih in the world, but some of us or some belonging to specifically also saw not only the Mama such as a composition as eight and no and thought or wasqib no in the Kiche ways, but also the eight, just the eight, and then the no. So to understand different stuff. For example, talking about what is going to come now, the nine wind. We have seen that wind actually brings very, very peculiar atmosphere in which atmospheric conditions are incredibly dramatic, for example. But number 9 years tend to be calm. So in this case, there's going to be there's for principle the next year 2021 in the Mayan way, in the Mayan specific traditional Kiche count that is beginning this count on the 19th of February, which is the oldest traditional way of counting. There are different countings now, but how to count the entry of the month. But anyway, about what is my tradition, my lineage, and the Kiche old Kiche ways is the 19th of February. So 9 years producing calm years, and it has producing dramatic years. So this year, for years, find a couple of, say, forces, nawals, whose force, whose strength is kind of contradicted. So what I'm saying in a sense is that what we're expecting is we're going to experience now is not something like the 2020 that just increase in the sense of changing revolution, changing stuff or breaking down stuff. In this case, the 9 year due to the fact that the components has this duality, or that they both hold different positions. It's more like a year in which there are going to be surprises, like things. There's not going to be a continuous something or the growing something or of one or only one thing. It's going to be like a zigzag of emotions, zigzags of events, zigzag of or pushing to the front, pushing to the back, going back and forth, going back and forth. It's going to be a disturbing year in the sense that what we can see about the next year is that things are not going to clarify what happened on the 2012 and in the previous year, but now it's the coming back and forth from things. It's like, okay, there's calm, and then there's going to be drama. There's going to be calmness, and then drama, and then episodes of atmospherical stuff and stuff like it's not going to be that clear as it was, like the sense of how the 2020 were making things grow. In this case, there's even less certainty because the components, Velchev and Ir, they hold different, let's say, natures. So there's uncertainty. There's not that much of for example, for 2020, we knew things were going to change. We didn't know in which way, but they changed. But in this case, no. In this case, it's like, who knows? It's Belheb and it's Ir. So it is a duality that is not telling us more than that. It is not showing us or helping us to understand patterns. So we're expecting uncertainty.
Well, actually, I have an interesting insight or an interesting idea that I've been playing around with, which is, that of course 1968, if you go back 52 years from 2020, was the same year bear or mam as number 8 thought or number Washikiv Noh. And you can see 1968 was this crazy year of revolution and stuff, and so you can compare 2020 with 1968. Well, 1969 was the summer of love. And so I'm expecting, and so I'm taking 1969, I'm dissecting this year and I'm looking at the things, not to say that the same things will happen, but to look at the pattern or the atmospheres or some of the themes. And so I've been trying to see what comparisons I can find between this next year.
Well, what you can do to us, and for all the listeners and people who are already following us here and in the podcast, what you can do is do the exercise of analyzing both components of the year, the Belahef and the Ik. And I'm going to make a direct, let's say, simple example in which the number nine is going to represent the incubation or the gestation, or what under darkness is going to begin to grow as pregnancy is for the baby. And it's talking about life and also the impulse, also about strong feelings, let's say. So Belehet as a combination in between so many different possible definitions is also the incubation of a new move. The incubation, or let's say, if I say in some senses, what is it? Is the incubation of a new, the incubation what a new inhalation can do. So, but a 9 is also unusually a year in which things begin to grow in silence. Things begin to grow beyond the light. They are just growing as the seed is growing in the earth, in the dirt, as the baby is growing in the mother's womb. As things are beginning to usually grow, and they hold more visibility. It's a wind, a move, a pulsion also. So it's an incubation of a new ways of doing something. So if 1969 was Summer of Love, well, let's see if what then applying an atmosphere of change, of beginning, or of what the renovation brings. And if 1968 renovation of revolution bring love, let's see what 2020 produced to be incubated on the 2021. I hope, and I will want the best.
That's an interesting observation. So, like, it's about incubation, and so in 1968 they were incubating love, but in 2020 maybe it's not love, maybe it's another thing.
Maybe it's another stuff, because, well, there's going to be an incubation, right? For sure there's going to be this is going to be the moment in which things that has been held in the heart, in the mind, things that you couldn't do it, things that you couldn't express. Well, also the death of loving ones and stuff. for sure there's going to be an incubation of a new mood. Let's see what it happens in the social ways in the world. What happens? Also, there's also a year of change. For example, in the USA with the presidential change and stuff like that. And let's see what happens in economies. And well, obviously, of course, now we have to look at China and see what is happening up there. Uh, um, and for sure it's an incubation of a new move. That is another definition, or that then let's say something that I already said, but can be
Hold on, I think.
exhausted.
Well, what you no, I really appreciate the idea of a nawal as a mood. Just in terms of like when the mom changes, the mood changed. The 2020 had a different mood than in 2021. There's a new mood, and it's like it doesn't exactly describe everything, but it describes a really specific aspect of the novel, which is very, I think, useful and helpful.
Well, I think so, because there's something that happens here and there, and that sometimes happens. And that there are some years in which you badly can see changes. And one of the things that we were looking at, let's say in the agricultural way, for example, was that the what was the old ways of predictions, specifically for rain and stuff like that, were no longer that easy to read. We thought about global warming and stuff like that, and let's say the certification of areas and the big, let's say, forestal fires in the Amazon, whatever. Let's say, don't let's talk just about some things. And we were having some difficulties now in understanding what the man was doing, because in some cases he didn't adjust as such. But now it's very interesting that beyond the atmospherical changes, yes, if you analyze what the capabilities or the possibilities of a new man is, if you apply the if you apply the understanding or the concept, if you want to call it like that, of changing a mood, then it applies. It really applies. The 2020 really brought even to us, also brought us back to the stuff in the moment to see what was in previous years. And yes, it's very interesting to see like that. So let's see what the incubation of and what is going to be incubated.
Well, let's just think about the positive aspects of the last year, because it's easy to, get distracted by the media, and look outside. One thing that the return for like number 8 being the return, is it brought everybody back home. Everybody in the whole world went back home. And it's like,
oh yeah,
and I mean, even if they were in a new home, but you were stuck at home, right? And so, like, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, and then for us too, like me, I'm a teacher, and we work with the University of Mayan Prophecies and all this different stuff. And like, it brought a revolution in education. Like, there's a before and after 2020 about education. That's the year education changed forever. And I would argue, at least, that for the better, for the positive, like, it got way better. I mean, arguably not, arguably so. And so, these are things that when I look at the return home and I look at the revolution in education, it's like, it's a miracle. And so then we could take that miracle and gestate it, and you could see some, amazing, positive, worldwide changes coming out of this year.
yeah. Well, just looking at the bright side, and then we can see the bright side of 1969.
Number 3, right? Number 3.
Yeah, and all the stuff, but and also 1970, which is the next year and the next month. And but if we go back, then we saw the first War World #1, beginning 1917 and 1980. So
Is that the same
I
month?
don't
Oh
know
my
what.
gosh, World War One. Oh no,
Yes,
that's amazing.
that's what I was trying to tell you. That these years or
Oh,
these months, these
oh my
periods
God,
are so peculiar in
that's
that
not
sense.
good. That's
1970,
not good news.
yeah, 1970s brought or began to brought also the end of the uh, the Vietnam world and stuff like that. But anyways, it lasts a little bit more. But in the previous cycle, it was what the first world. And now let's see what happens. It's the incubation of something, and the next is Lahore 10, Kiche, which talks about strength and stability. So let's see how the world develops this incubation of a certain mood to arrive to the conjunction of a strength. The previous cycles were not that well, not that good, but let's see. Hope this can be bright.
Okay, now I want to talk about. This is a huge shift, but I want to talk about the Khatun prophecies. Not because the prophecies, but because the Khatun system. There's a Khatun system which goes over like periods of 20 years, and then it goes. Do you know the system?
Yeah, I know the system. What we have to say, and something that we can say now, I can say it now, is that they were produced in some books in the Yucatan Peninsula. Is not precisely what the proper Quiche tradition is, and although what can be said now that there are some individuals that has begun to take those cartoons into account. Well, there were no continuity in using them. There were no continuous use. I don't use them really. I study them because I like to study stuff, but we don't really use those cycles in the same way as the peninsular Mayans did. So 20 years from now, it's not something that I'm not going to calculate. I'm going to see maybe just the round of analyzing this trecena of year beaters to see what happens now.
Okay. Okay,
But
so this is
yeah.
my final comment on this topic. Unless we can talk about the systems, but on this one, so the cartoon goes from 2012 until 2032, and that's the 20 years,
Okay.
roughly speaking. And
Yeah, roughly speaking, yeah.
and so then the last time this cartoon was in that time period, if you use the system, which of course, as you said, you don't, and maybe nobody does, is it was like around 1776. It was like
Oh
1760
yeah.
something and so it's like that's that same cartoon of the French Revolution, American Revolution time is here again, and so some people are asking me about this. Well, it says this and it's true, it does say this, but like I don't know. Like you said, you don't use the system, and so how to understand it or how to use it, I don't know. And so that was the question.
Well, analyzing the year beaters, but let's say what you can do, as we have been doing in this moment, is just to analyze not that the same conditions as are going to repeat, but what we can see in the big, let's say, the big picture is to see the same atmosphere in which now we are going to develop something different, but it seems to be quite dramatic. It seems to be quite a little bit like,
Very
I don't know,
dramatic,
that
yes.
very dramatic, yes, spooky times, if you want to say like that, because
It is spooky, yeah.
yeah, because what I told you just some moments ago was like when I was studying the cartoon books, and there are different ones, not only the Chuyamel. There are different ones. They are quite obscure. Sometimes the metaphors, I can still read it. I can understand what the ancestors were saying because the metaphors in here and there can be understood. But it was like, oh my gosh, they were every year they were doing predictions of very bad things to see. But well, it is understandable. It saw things happening after the conquest and stuff like that, in which their world really changed. But it's not that different. The world is changing now, and things seems to be spooky. I'm not trying to play or to produce fear in any sense, but just to see the repeating of cycles. It indicates changing times and dramatic ones. As I said before, there are some moms, there are some year beaters in which you can not even see the difference, but these ones are really the ones that you can track to see big stuff happening everywhere.
That's absolutely fascinating and exciting and, amazing. And, when you say that there's some years that are not that strong, it reminds me of, 2018, I think, which was Kiche. And, that year, I thought for me, I think I even asked you, was like really quiet. Nothing really happened that year.
Yeah, there were some years, and I did when I was taught in the traditional ways, when I was living in the mountains and stuff like that with my teacher. Sometimes they said, "Well, let's do the ceremony for to receive the new mom." And when I look back at the year, I said, "Well, I don't know if it's me that I'm just living in the mountains, or I didn't see big stuff to happen. Maybe my life was the one that didn't change that much." And I was looking at, for example, 2006 and 7, 2008, then I did a move. But 2009, I was back in the mountains. 2010, I was back in the mountains. And I was like, well, there's no bigger stuff. I did even question myself about receiving the mom and stuff like that. But then I learned about the arts of reading the person's life through the Mayan calendar, and I saw that the mom is really something that really plays in a person's life. And I began to enter more into that, more into what is the affectation on a person due to the mom in which the person was born. And then I found that so incredible, fascinating, because I wasn't
That is
seeing
very
it.
beautiful.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, amazing knowledge. Amazing knowledge. It's amazing to calculate and count that and to do what I have been called gravitatology, the study of pregnancy and the mom, and adding knowledge of the mom. It's amazingly beautiful because I wasn't seeing stuff in, let's say, in the atmospherical or in the big social picture, but now it's different. Now we're looking that these years, this man has been carrying so much strength, and now this is a moment in which we can take them back to try to understand what is happening. This year, next Sena, we're going to receive the Belehekir, the incubation of a new mood. But next one is going to be Tenkeh, the convergence of strength. So it looks reasonable that things are going to change. It seems that we're going to rebuild, or we're going to rebuild in a new way. I don't think that it's going to be like the summer of love, right? But we are going to rebuild. We're going to rebuild so many stuff.
So I, on the one side, I also can very skeptical of the idea of the summer of love. That seems ridiculous now. But on the other side, how can I say? I partially expect it. Like I can just see the government one day comes forward and they say, "Okay, everyone, back to normal. Take off the masks," and then boom, is a huge party. It's so obvious. But on the other side, I feel like I'm skeptical of anything happening. I'm too pessimistic. I think everything is going negatively, and we're fucked. But so the part of me is like that. On the other side, I'm like, man, they could just push push the switch and we're back, baby. And that, if that happens, then it's the summer of love, but like I said, I'm very, pessimistic too.
What's beautiful about, I think, one of the aspects of the Summer of Love was that there was still some, let's say, naive thoughts about that, about I don't know, human destination or human goals, or there was still some sweetness.
There is a lot
that,
of naive thoughts. A lot of naive thoughts in there.
Yeah, I think
Mostly.
that nobody's going to pretend to go back onto that in these days. I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe so in some stuff like ecological stuff, or what was really the repercussion of humans not being in the streets, for example, or not doing what we usually. What is the weight of our presence in the earth? But there are things like that seems like acquiring a new sense of our part as a part of a system, in the ecological system. Maybe there are some stuff like that can enter into that, but in the other sense, I don't know. I don't think so. But yes, we are hurt. We have been locked. We have been pushed to go to the inside. And for sure there's an incubation of new stuff that is going to give us or bring us then the convergence of a strength. But previous cycles show.
I was going to say, like,
show not that good. Uh-huh.
Well, so this last year, like I mentioned before, there was a revolution in education, and so we were able to begin, having lessons about the Mayan calendar in a more organized way, with the university. And I thought it was a really exciting and beautiful first step. And right, and so it's just like, well, that's the first step. And then from this year, one positive thing we could think about is like, well, we could incubate that. And it's like, that's profound, and then, you know what I mean? And then the convergence of strength, it's like, okay, then this stuff is going to get really strong because, like, in these chaotic times, there's also like opportunity, huge opportunity. And so, maybe we could get more people interested in this kind of thing or whatever, right? Or not necessarily just this project, but any project that anybody has, maybe this is a great time to incubate something and then, strengthen it.
Yeah, and by the way, now that you mentioned the subject, let me tell you that yes, precisely due to what we did with the first step in the UMK to begin to offer classes for the Mayan calendar now, and for all the people listening to this podcast, there's going to be an opportunity to open a new cycle that is going to run along with the second part of the one that started this year. There's an optimism of continuing of to give continuity to this online project. So let me tell you, Paul, that then in your page or whenever you also publish the podcast, we can talk that we are happy to announce that we're going to be opening a new cycle for classes for the Mayan calendar. And obviously my consultations, and people can go to my web page to ask for consultations and advice and personal stuff. But also we will want, we're making the first, we're doing the first things to open a new cycle independently of the one that is that already started and that is going to go for the second year. So, well, if anyone is interested, send us a message through my webpage or directly to the Living the Tzolk'in page. There's going to be, we can endure also into like going with these online Mayan classes. But
I have like literally millions of ideas. And so, I'm really excited to, you know what I mean, to start all kinds of different stuff. So, I'm really, really excited about, of course, the first step was so much fun, it's such a good experience, blah, 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 but the next steps are like, the possibilities are very exciting.
Okay, well, maybe you can give me 500,000 ideas, and we can begin to make it possible. Because that's the way in which
talk about it.
Yeah, let's do it. That's the way in which I can do the incubation of a new mood, like following the mom's atmosphere and, let's say, a strength that this mom is going to bring. Then we can discuss and we talk about. And also, so if some readers or some people that is interested listening to this podcast has an idea of what can be something that can be, well, let's listen to everyone's opinion.
So this is, let me bring in the number 3 stuff a little bit, which is like, especially for people who really love this stuff and, are listening or here at all and stuff like that. What types of things can we do to prepare or to incubate or to, you know what I mean? How can we use this mood, you know what I mean, to grow and to incubate? Do you have anything to say about that?
Well, following what has been in the traditional Mayan ways, like following, keeping track of the man, then preparing for now, well, is preparing for, in a sense, is like a new breath always. Nahual is always a new breath. It's taking uh let yes, it's, I'm thinking different ideas now. I'm going to express one. It's like, for example, the wind is unpredictable in most of the senses, right? So it could be a strong or a small one, the incubation of a new mood. So following the metaphor, uh, what is what is something that we can do is to clean up, to really clean stuff in our personal lives. Whatever that is going to take impulse or whatever that is going to be incubated in these days or in these times, in these months, in this following year, well, hope to be surely more like us, like getting you with, let's say, with your house clean, with everything in order, with everything in place. Because it's kind of unpredictable, as I said in the beginning. It's not that much of a certainty, exact certainty of what it is going to bring. So, if you have things in order, if you already do the discipline to put stuff, now you have plenty of time in your house or in the locked place, or at least some additional time of what the time you were holding was. Then you can put things in order. You can order
This
stuff.
brings
You can.
Sorry, this brings me to a very fascinating question, which has to do with Mayan farming. So you're talking about preparing and being organized and preparing the workplace, and is there any connections or is there anything you can say about the preparation?
Well, but but that does not apply in the, too much. Because
Okay.
what I
So
think
this
is,
is an
well,
abstract idea.
what happens is that in the atmospherical way, and specifically for the latitude at which we begin, at which we are, and the latitude and the humidity that is for the Kiche tradition of receiving the man, we are precisely in the moments in which the land is finally being prepared. It adjusts very good to our situation. So upcoming rains are for the end of this month or for the beginning of the other. So that's why I'm making the metaphor. In the agricultural or something like that, like farming, in these moments we do already have the earth prepared. We already bought it. We already did the previous preparation of stuff, and the selection of seeds has been already been done. Even what is called in the syncretical way the like I benediction, or like preparing the seeds in the spiritual way, and in the Orthodox system of the Mayan calendar, also doing the blessing of the seed has already been done. The seed in this case is already prepared. The
Well,
land
see, so
is
that's
ready.
what I'm talking about. Like, when you mention something like the blessing of the seed, like, I don't know what that means. Like, I've never heard anything about it. So could you explain that a little bit more? Like, what is that?
Well, this can be used then in a metaphorical and symbolical way, if you want to do it. If you're not a peasant, that does not mean that you cannot use the same system of the same way in which we use spirituality in the agricultural system can also be seen as a system or as a way of comprehension of actions. So, before the rain comes, we do already have had the earth prepared, but also did already blessing of the seed. What that means is all is can be seen in the big play of what is the masculine and what is the feminine aspects of the universe. As to say, the earth representing the feminine, not the earth representing the feminine, and the upcoming strength, or the upcoming arrival of rains, that is going to be the masculine deep ways of the thunders and the lightning, announcing the return of the cycle in which masculinity, or the earth, is going to come to once again, let's say, begin to produce the sprout, the germination of our seeds. So that is agricultural sense. That is what is happening now. As I said, the earth is already prepared. The seeds has been already been not only selected but blessed, and we are just waiting for the last signals in the moon, and the beginning of the first electrical storms, like thunders and lightnings, to calculate the exact moment in which the rain is going to come. But in that sense, once again, it is also a process. Like, prepare yourself, prepare your land, take away what is going to take away or burn what is not proper for that, to allow you to grow up your seeds. And your seeds can be, in the concept, anything that you can do, your investments, your ideas, your efforts, your physical strength. So what is this in this moment? Well, it is that, the moment in which we can begin to clean up, to burn what is unnecessary, to have a clean land to begin to plant, or to begin to do, to begin to do the planting, the tikishik that is called in tikon, that is in the Mayan ways. What is the blessing of the seeds? Well, that is a ceremony. There are two sides of that ceremony. Now I'm jumping from conceptualization, in which all the best, when we harvest in the previous cycle, when we harvest the corn, we do the selection of the best seeds. We do a selection based on the quality of the seed, and we do a selection of our best seeds for the next year. We took the best of the previous harvesting to begin to do that. Being that the seeds, in that sense, belong to the feminine side, and that they have and they hold all the strength, but it's already not touched by water, than that celestial water, or the water from the sky, that in a way that, well, it hasn't been touched by the masculine sex. So you do the blessing in the sense of the best efforts for the best multiplication of what you do with your seeds. And also, well, this is additional in the Mayan way. For example, when you go to the fields and do the planting of the seeds, there's also ceremonial moments in which there could be ceremony dances. There are some dances for bringing the thunder and the rain, and there are some dances for the wind also, but also dances for the seed, in which what we think is about the community sense of what we are, because the Maya men go to the fields, and every time that he plants the seeds, he always chooses 5 seeds. Some places they say it's 4, but mostly the most commonly is talks about 5. And they have let's say they do have there's an idea behind this, in which the first seed that you plant is for your food, for your feeding your family. The second, another second, by the way, curiously and peculiarly, there's another seed that is going to be put in the earth for your brothers. Let's say there are some animals that before the rain has already come in the full way. Sometimes the rat, sometimes a crow, sometimes a snake. There are some. So sometimes you do also put an additional seed for the others that are going to also let's say being on benefit of planting your seed. The Maya men, as to say, never puts all the seeds for the self, but also for some others, right? There's the third seed that is going to be used in the case or in sense of someone that couldn't produce. So you're thinking about the community. You are thinking about everybody or everyone that can share that seed of corn. So once again, one is yours, right? One is for you, for feeding your family, for your benefit. The other one is for to share with the animals, is for to share with the others in the universe and in this world. Sorry. Another one is prepared also for the ones that does not have a land, for people to help, for the plain idea of multiplication for the ones that couldn't do it or that couldn't have it, right? That's the third, for example, the third seed, and then we can go that order. But what the point is that when you do the blessing, then you are also saying, in a sense, that what you got or what the sky earth has been giving you, it is also being going to be reproduced. This is the times, this is the moment before the arrival of the mom. And for us, it has a coincidence with the agricultural cycle. So this is the moment in which the seed is about to be uh, planted, and the seed carries along the sense of community, and also not only the personal benefit, but also the communal benefit, and not also the human as such, also the animals, for example. And so this is a moment in which the rain is expected, because then the cycle is going to return. But this is a peculiarity of the Mayan calendar, in the sense, or the tracking of the stuff from the highlands. If we were going to talk about, for example, the upcoming time for the MAM or the year beater in the Yucatan Peninsula, then we have to wait 80 days, or depending on the count that they are going to follow, but we have to wait, because also the rain is not going to come that soon for them, but for us it's about to come. And I'm talking about the highlands of Guatemala. The rain is about it is even in some places already arrived in the more high altitude. So that's the full concept. That's the full idea of of doing the blessing of what your seeds are, and your seeds also carry the sense not only of your personal benefit but everybody's benefit, even beyond the human benefit, and to do have the feminine side already prepared for the masculine side to do the complementary work that is going to go on to the germination and the sprout of the seed, for this earthly celestial communication to begin to go. So what we're doing now is looking at the moon and looking at stars and waiting for the electrical storms.
What do you see in the moon? What are you waiting for to watch in the moon?
The conjunction and what is happening. For example, how the wind comes along with the phases of the moon. Because, for example, if you already did clean up all your land, you have to see if there's too much wind, because the wind can bring you unexpected seeds, can bring you, or for example, unexpected water floods. This is the moment of some things that I have been talking in the previous podcasts. This is the moment in which you begin to watch how the spiders do their web, but specifically how the ants are picking up their own seeds. And you can see the behavior of animals in the forest and in the jungles, in the deserts, and everybody, they know they are preparing for the same stuff. So you can track their actions to also calculate or calibrate your own. We can see the moon, and we can see the mood of the moon as to see, and what is happening also with the wind. And then you can
calibrate is a good word.
Yeah, well, I like to see the ants. I really like the ants, and
Can
sometimes
you
how
the ants thing.
Well, the ants thing is about. It's very easy to see. What you have to see is if they are in high numbers, or if you can barely see them. Also, what you can track is how long their track is. So the shorter it is, can mean no. The shorter it is, it can mean a dry season, not that much rain. But if they are just like having big trucks and carrying so much stuff, well, there's going to be an abundance. It is usually like that. It is in some spiders, not every species, by the way. I don't know if in any other place people is listening to us, this is going to apply, but maybe it can apply to some other stuff. The size of the spider wave is also a key for to understand this. Like, if the spider wave is very, very, very big, well, then there's not going to be that much of a rain. If the spider wave is very small, then there's going to be an upcoming of big rains, even floods. Sometimes can predict, but it depends on the species and the land, the latitude and the altitude in which you are. But anyways, the message is the same. There are going to be the surrounding animals already in balance with their environment, not as humans. There's already some of them that can show you and teach you how much rain is going to come, and sometimes even when the rain is going to come. So, if I would want to say something, well, this is my example, but maybe on your lands, on your latitude, on your altitude, you can see some other animals doing, already preparing stuff, and in the way they prepare, the way that you can read or that you can track how things are going to come.
That's very interesting. It made me immediately think about all the other animals that I could ask questions about. Like, for example, fireflies. I heard fireflies had an interesting, let's say, metaphor.
Oh yeah, dragonfly also show you stuff. Today, for example, I saw a falcon or a hawk. I couldn't make the difference. Maybe a red red-tailed hawk. If if following the red-tailed hawk, then it comes another species of hawk that is smaller. I think it's the laughing hawk in English. Then the rain is coming, for sure, for sure. Even in this latitude, not necessarily the proper and complete rain, but they began to bring the rain. They are beginning to move. They are beginning to do their own annual migration. Sometimes you can see it in the sky, sometimes you can see it in ants, sometimes you can see it in spiders, or you can read that everything just give you a little moment, or as my teacher says, well, we just watch the spiritual guide and then you go to the fields whenever he goes.
That's what I do when I'm talking to you. I'm just like, okay, what are the hot?
just give me the date. Yes, I understand. There's a full gender. Gender. I don't know which is pronunciation in English. There's a full collection of tales and histories about that, about a person that is hesitant to do stuff, but he watches the spiritual for the moment to begin to go to the fields. But there are also funny sides, right? Like just replicating the act. Yeah.
I can appreciate that. Actually, that's another like a side topic which I'm so fascinated in is just all of the old folk stories. Because they have right. See, that's a whole nother universe.
Yeah. That is amazing because one thing that is very peculiar and one thing that is amazingly beautiful is that whenever you go with your teacher, like, who can be a woman or a man, it does not matter in the Highlands, and the one that also selected you as an apprentice, because you can be also selected. You can be refused sometimes by teachers, and sometimes you can be just openly guided by some individuals also. But anyways, one of the things that are very beautiful and peculiar is that all your learning, especially the beginning of your learning, is surrounded by histories all the time. All the time. And if you will go for hunting, there's still some ways of doing hunting. If you go for ceremonies, if you go to the mountain, if you do the preparation in the sweat lodge, whatever that you do is accompanied by history. There's a moment in which everything has a function, and you are shown how the position of the hands of the squirrel can tell you stuff, for example. And every accompanying being in this earth can make or play a role in histories, and not even what we see, but we cannot see as some things that can be called dwarfs or small people, kosh, as it is said in Mayan, not like dwarf as such, but small, like the same but small, and not like midget, but small in the other sense, like reducted, as to say something. No, reducted, not like shrinked.
Miniature.
Miniature can be better, yes, like a miniature, not like a midget.
We have
not
these
like
in Japan too, and many of versions also.
Yes, and all the histories which are thousands, maybe hundreds, but could be thousands. Even they give you an example. They give you a lesson. They show you a lesson. Sometimes you pay a lesson, and there are so many histories. And that, by the way, you can find it in some carvings and some vessels, painted vessels from the classical times of our ancestors. And we're following that.
That's fascinating.
that those yes, those
Well,
images.
because the stories, they teach you like there's a lesson or a metaphor in the story, and you can relate the story to so many applications, to every application, I think. And so then the value of these stories is like, the messages they contain or the ideas they contain. Really, it's the ideas that are in the stories that are so useful, I would say. So that's why they tell them to you. And so, if you don't have these ideas, then you can't approach the information correctly. And so you'll.
Yeah, well, and by the way, there's always an accompanying history in, as I said, in everything. For example, in this moment, I'm remembering that, for example, for every Nahual, for every day on the Mayan calendar that we call Nahual, there's always a history for to to begin to do the exposition of the idea to an apprentice. And for example, if a person comes to your altar to do consultation, then you talk about like that history after history, and that is, say, one of the things that I found really, really beautiful when I was an apprentice, because the history tells you so much about everything, right?
Yeah, well, in
And
fact, we do it the same in the modern society. Like, our legal system is based off of the Bible.
mm,
Especially the Christian Bible. So it's like, if you don't understand the Christian Bible stories, they're all just a bunch of, like, for example, Noah's Ark or something. Like, you can't understand our legal system, or you can't understand our scientific method. If you don't understand Noah's Ark, then you don't know our scientific approach, or something like that. Like, our whole even our approach to music. If you don't understand the Bible, then you will never understand our approach to music. And so it's like, it's the bottom of every civilization. And so the Mayans are no different. They have all these stories, and if you don't understand the stories, then you can't really approach the topic properly, or impossible to understand.
hmm and it helps. Well, there are so many different levels or things that you can understand from my stuff, but that is a completely, totally, it's a universe of histories. And by the way, there's a moment in which you began to collect cures in a different dimension. I'm talking as a spiritual guide, and then you began to talk and to see how what you learned began to apply to understand the others, for example. And in time, you found yourself full of histories, also full of things to tell, full of things to respond. You find yourself full of information. It's not only that it helps you in a moment. Later, things you're going to be a collector of histories, a collector of narrative, a collector of more and more and more stuff. The world, the universe, the dreams are going to show you stuff. And well, this is something kind of a personal revelation. I found myself some years after having been practicing doing healing, I began to feel so happy that I was so full of histories. Because for example, whenever my teacher in the beginning was telling me stuff and teaching me stuff, I was like, "Whoa, this man! Whoa, he knows a lot! Wow!" And there was a moment in which I got extenuated, like, "Oh my gosh, he knows so much!" And when I'm going to learn all this stuff, well, no, there's nothing to fear. There's going to be a time in which you're going to be the collector also and the producer also. It is an amazing, the Mayan calendar is an amazing way of collecting knowledge or producing knowledge. And sometimes, as I said, you find yourself in the middle of the magic and the beautiful of this.
Well, that was actually the point of making the journal, was that, you could start to collect your own Mayan calendar histories. And so, like, for example, for me, I'll remember some specific novels or some specific Tracinas or something where events happened to me, big events. And then so every time, for example, the day 6 dog, comes up, it's like an anniversary. I see it, I'm like, oh yeah, this is here again. And, it's just a memory, but, it comes up, and, I'm starting to, for example, the day 13E will always live in my heart.
Mm,
Right? Just as an
yeah,
example, but you know what I
yeah.
mean? And so like so then when I look at the novel, which is, coming back or whatever, I'm also looking at it like an old friend or like a memory, or, you know what I mean? It's just like this,
Mm-hmm.
13E is back again. Hello, old friend. How are you? I remember you. Nice to see you again. And that's a very interesting, you know what I mean? That was the point of the journal, so that you could collect and catalog and organize your dreams, your stories, your events, etc.
Yeah, to make you a collector of the breeding of the world. Yeah, well, that's something that we can plan for this year and for the beginning a new cycle of classes. Why not? If people is interested, there's too many histories to begin with, the traditional ones, and then you collect yours, your own experiences, your own ways of connecting and relating the Mayan calendar to your actual experience, and then what you can do with that for to understand the next. Same way as I'm applying the knowledge for understanding the MAM. There's going to be an incubation of a new mood, then it is going to be built, the convergence of a strength. So for sure there's a change. For sure there's too many things upcoming. It's they don't look that peaceful, that loving as we would want, but let's prepare the earth. Let's prepare the earth for the seeds to be down. That's why now I'm connecting every single thread that we put in this.
It's a perfect way to
Prepare.
make the weaving. I love it, because we talked literally about everything today. So
About
it's a good,
everything.
yeah. So it's good to weave it back, and then we could sort of land the plane here, and we're good. Cool.
Yeah, and as I said, this is a moment in which the land has to be ready, or your plan has to be ready, your savings, or even your personal, let's say, stuff. Because the wind always come unpredicted. Can be soft, can be a cyclone. Okay, can come destroying stuff. So the better you are clean and prepared as the earth is ready in fertility, the best that everything that you are going to begin to do, because it's going to begin to germinate. That's the point, and that's what happened. What is happening in this moment for us, but also as I said, if you're not a peasant, then this is a moment in which you can use the same metaphor to begin to do stuff. Prepare yourself. There's going to be a change. In a sense, not that much predictable, but in a sense, better if it gets you organized. The world is changing, we know, and reading along your atmosphere and reading everything surrounding you can be helpful to understand not only the upcoming of rain, but what also you can do with your world, or what you can do in your personal world. Because now it has been too much of being in the inside. It has been too much of being with no movement. It has been also too much of being forced to do something. So that wind can be also, and that new wind can be an expression of aggression. So let's prepare, and let's be, let's say, humble to see the new changes, and also to be prepared to produce our own. But better not, as I said, on what is the consequence of being pushed to do something, or to be forced to do something. So this is the moment, or this is the time, the beginning of the new month, the new year beater, at the changing of cycles on Earth, in which at least you can have your own, as in a metaphor or directly, your own land prepared.
Sweet. Do you want to end it there? Or do you have any last things to say? You good?
Well, that's the UMK is planning to do a new cycle of classes. So people who are interested in Mayan calendar and how to be guided by myself and in different ways can send us a message to know your interest and to begin to build things and stuff based on the Mayan calendar in the authentic and real ways of the Mayans, not New Age and as a science and a philosophy. Also spirituality, right? But if anyone is interested, or you can go to my webpage to see more about your interests. This is the moment, and once again, we are preparing the land.
That's sweet. Yeah, I'll put the place where people can contact you, in the link for this. So good. Yeah, thank you so much. It was awesome conversation today.
Okay.
Let's do this again. Sooner rather than later.
Perfect. So bye bye. Shut up, or Sakrik in the other part of the world to everybody. Kahib awip. That it means take care. Ciao. Bye.
Good night. See ya. Just want to say special thank you to everybody who tuned in and listened to the podcast today, and also thank you to our sponsors, the University of Maya Ketchikel and the Zolkeen Explorer app. If you'd like to contact me or Papillon, please use the email. We'd be really happy to hear from you. Thanks a lot, and keep on living the Zolkeen. Peace and love.